Alright, let's open the input viewer so we can see what we are doing. Put it down here. Alright. So, looking at the windsock, the winds are coming rather straight ahead as a headwind. We can also check that with our Garmin unit, and it's showing 42, 45, 50 knots thereabouts. It's a bit gusty now, it's 52. So yeah. So with the wind from there, I anticipate a slight forward and left cyclic input. So since this helicopter has a clockwise turning rotor, I also anticipate we need a bit of a left anti-torque pedal input as we lift off. So looking at the input viewer, if we start off here and then slowly raise the collective for a try to do a two-stage pickup. I'm not sure how easy that is in the current conditions, but okay, let's start. Raising the collective slowly. You can see on the input viewer it's rather slow movements. There we are starting, so a bit more left anti-torque. Bit more aft cyclic. Oh, there we are. Yeah, didn't need as much corrective inputs as I thought, so there we are, but remember now we are directly into the wind. So we can do a left paddle turn and then head over to the windsock, and then I suspect we'll drift with the wind. So bit of aft cyclic and right. And then as soon as you turn the helicopter and get all the fuselage into the wind, of course, then we will drift even further and need a bit more inputs, as you can see. So my my paddles are half the way to the left, and the cyclic, you can see, is also to the right to counter those winds. So let's lower down a bit and try with a tailwind and see how that affects us. Alright, so a bit aft cyclic then. And not as much rudder input or anti-torque input, as you can see. So as always with the helicopters, it's a constant ballet of anti-torque and collective and cyclic inputs. Okay, so 90 degrees to the left again. And then you see we need a lot of right anti-torque pedal inputs and some left cyclic. And with the headwind again, then it's becomes, that's the most easy direction, because yeah, the wind is blowing straight at us, so it's sort of a simulated forward flight condition, because then you also would have of course the wind blowing straight on the nose. So here our inputs are almost neutral. Alright, so we can try to hover taxi / air taxi over to the taxiway, down the runway, and then in on the apron again. And with helicopters, I have understood it's always a argument whether to taxi with the nose pointing in the direction you actually are taxiing, or with the nose into the wind. So, but now let's try to taxi with the nose pointing in the direction of the ground track. Because then we need to counter those winds more than if we would taxi with our nose into the wind. So, as you can see, small inputs, but now as we turn to the left, I suspect we will be blown away if we don't counter those wind forces. So a lot of paddle to turn, then a bit of aft cyclic, and then we can almost let the wind just blow us in the direction we are going. So no, I don't need to use any forward cyclic. I just reduce my aft inputs. And then to the left. So now we need a lot more right anti-torque inputs, and a bit more left cyclic. And the collective I just use to maintain, try to maintain my altitude. Alright, and then back into the winds. So as you can see, in relation to a fixed wing aircraft, I think helicopters are much more easy to fly in windy conditions like this, as long as you get it off the ground, because then you are able to just steer the nose into the wind and do your takeoffs from there. While in a fixed wing aircraft, you of course need to align with the runway and get up to speed as you have the ailerons into the wind, and it's much harder, and therefore also the crosswind component allowed for a takeoff and landing of a fixed wing aircraft is there. Because in a Cessna, for example, the max crosswind component is 15 knots. So you couldn't take off in a Cessna in conditions like these. But in a helicopter, as you can see, it's doable. But in the real world, I don't actually know what they would do in conditions like this. I guess they will not be flying because of the reduced visibility. So you can't see much, but in relation to the wind, I'm not sure if they would take off at all. I don't think so. But in the simulator, as you can see, it's doable. So let's try to just make a little flight around here and see how we go. Crossing the runway, and as you can see in front of us, it's a mountain. On top of here, it's the Svalbard, which is a satellite receiver station for everything from communication to television and everything. So
terrain ahead.
Let's turn off view. So this road here leads up to the plateau with the satellite dishes, so we can try to fly up there and look at them. So now we are over torquing, as you can see, so that's not good. So thereabouts is our maximum torque. Winds are now 56 knots. So with the torque limitation and the wind blowing, it's not easy to climb, but we are going a bit fast, so if we reduce and trade our airspeed with altitude, then you can see we are able to get up. So using the road here as our reference, and there you can see the satellite dishes in view. Those have those hoods on to protect them from weather like this, for example. And of course in the real world you wouldn't be flying over here because well, first of all it's not allowed, and second of all it's not good for your health, because those dishes here, some of them both receive and transmit, and putting your precious bells in those sort of radiation hazards. So that ain't good. Okay, so now we have put ourselves with a slight tailwind and wind pushing us from the left. So now you see we need to counter those winds once again with the left cyclic and right anti-torque pedal. But even in conditions like this, it's doable to keep the helicopter sort of stable. So let's try to fly back down again, so then we will get a tailwind, so see how that affects us. And I suspect also a bit of a downdraft, because the winds blowing over this mountain will surely try to push us down to the ground. Alright, so a lot of full right deflection on my anti-torque pedal to try to keep the nose in our direction. And then we got blown pretty high up because of the winds and how they affect the rotor and increases lift. So now I have to lower my collective quite a bit to get us down again. So we are sort of possible to navigate following these lights. Okay, so the road is still on our right side. And there we get the airport in sight. So fly over there and try to land. And then of course when you lift off and when you land, you like the wind on the nose. So land into the wind with headwind, then it's much easier to keep the helicopter stable. Ooh. And as you can see with those gusts, they are really increase the lift. Okay, so coming up to our parking, nose into the wind. And then hover over our spot and slowly reduce collective, and we are down. Alright. So that was a flight you can do in a simulator. I wouldn't do that in the real world. But then again, I'm not a real world helicopter pilot either, so I don't know the limitations. But I suspect with winds like this, 57 knots, you wouldn't fly anything, either fixed wing or rotorcraft. So, but in the simulator, it's fun to try. Alright, see you later, bye.